and I'm gonna go into intro MC host mode for a moment. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. Welcome to Storytime with Friends. Here today I have Emmy Award-winning and comedian and all-around Disney MC Mark Daniel, and then performer, entertainer extraordinaire Cynthia Beckert. Thank you both for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. So today we're going to just go into some stories about your career and your experience as a performer and entertainer. Just try to get some of your fondest moments, some of your wildest moments, just basically whatever you're comfortable with sharing. It's inspiring hearing people who are in the industry and actually having success with it and actually being able to live off of it. It's great for all those folks out there who are wanting to join the industry or wanting to know how this machine works in the entertainment industry. So thank you so much for being here today. And dope. So we're going to start with an icebreaker that I like called Fun Fact, Brag Fact, Mundane Fact. The first one is going to be a fun fact, just like you would share in any other icebreaker. Then a brag fact, basically giving you permission to not be judged and repeated. Tell us something you're proud of. And then a mundane fact, oh, I really like green beans or something of that nature. I'll go first. My fun fact is I used to be a underground Zumba instructor at my first university, in which I would go to Zumba all the time, and then some guys would come up to me and go, "Hey, so that looks like fun." I'm like, "Come to the class," and they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Okay, what if I teach you?" So there was a study room that we did. Long story short, and there was like 3 other guys, and I taught them Zumba at 6 a.m. in a study room in the hall. My brag fact is yesterday I got offered a combined acting and technician contract with the Lake Tahoe Shakespeare Festival for their summer season, so I'll be doing that. And then my mundane fact is I have a lot of arm hair, and I think that is good. Also, since we don't all know each other, I guess I'll also add a sort of introduction, what you would say in an elevator speech. Hi, I'm Alex Mason. Also, my stage name is Alex Mandelson. I'm a technician, performer, entertainment designer, and all around doing artsy things.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark, as you know, as you see on the screen. And I'm an actor, a comedian, and a improv performer. Been doing it for several years. My fun fact is I used to be an upholsterer. I used to strip down furniture and rebuild it when I was in high school. And I also loved, as I told you, special effects makeup. My bragging fact is I have the privilege to go to Skywalker Ranch once a year. And they just called me and invited me back to Skywalker Ranch. So as a Star Wars fan, it's the Mecca that I get to go, and I get to stay there for 2 nights and host their 4th of July picnic where I get to entertain all the people that make Star Wars possible. Writers, the creators, the designers, all those people, all across video games, movies, TV shows. So I get to see some amazing people. And mundane fact is I have gray hair in my beard, and I love it.
There you go. It's texturing. Also, I'm surprised your brag fact isn't that you have an Emmy.
That's right. I'm looking at it too.
Can you explain real quick why you are Mark Daniel? Sorry, Emmy Award-winning Mark Daniel.
Emmy Award-winning Mark Daniel, because for years I've been doing the Walt Disney Christmas Parade tapings, and so I'm the warm-up host. So one year, the 2015, 2016 outstanding technical team, and as the warm-up host, I'm on that technical team, so we all won an Emmy. So I have the plaque that says my name on it and the Emmy on there, and the leader of the team gets the actual statue, and I actually got to hold the statue. So yeah, that's my Emmy
awesome.
for being the warm-up host for the unforgettable Christmas celebration for Walt Disney World.
That's certainly unforgettable. Thank you, Mark.
My name is Cynthia Beckert. I am a performing artist. In my time, I have done theater and dance and singing and directing and belly dance and burlesque and choreography. So performing artist tends to sum it up pretty effectively. Brag moment? Brag fact. I got to play Hamlet with the Los Angeles Women's Shakespeare Company, an all-female troupe. I had one performance. I was the cover for Lisa Volpe, who was playing Hamlet, who was the artistic director. And that was the experience of a lifetime as an actor. And I love knowing that I did it. So I'm very proud of that. So that's a brag moment. Mundane. I thought I was 5'9" for like most of my life. It turns out I'm 5'8.5", and I'm a little disappointed.
That is disappointed. That is disappointing. It's okay. I think I'm 5'11", like 0.5. But there's such a thing about guys being 6 foot that I just tell people that I'm 6 foot tall.
Hello, I am Caid Gilliland, soon to be Caid Panis. I'm getting married in October. Thank you. I am currently on my final year of mortuary school, looking for any work. So if you need a funeral director, let me know. A fun fact about me, I have 3 degrees. Technically 2, working on the 3rd, English, vocal performance, and mortuary science. Brag fact. I was chosen out of a group of around 2,000 to sing at Carnegie Hall. So that was fun. And mundane fact, I just recently got back into Neopets. It's harder than I remembered it being for a game for kids, but it's a fun time passer and highly recommend. The storyline's great. Other than that, that's all there is to me.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Neopets is incredible. Mine are probably starving at the moment. I think I heard like a Spotify ad or something recently where like, Neopets, whether it's been 1 year or 10 years, come back and see
in my
what.
case.
Yeah. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. Thank you for sharing that. So, Mark, welcome. You know what? I'll actually let the lady go first this time. I've been going all counterclockwise and everything. Cynthia, what is your fondest memory of a production member saving a show or a performance?
I was in a production of Oliver, the musical, at Alabama Shakespeare many, many moons ago, back in the days of repertory theater and 10-week contracts and all the good stuff that made theater, livable. And the gentleman playing Bill Sykes, that gentleman, we had always been taught that if you go up on lines in a song, just say something, sing something, keep going with intention. The audience probably won't notice, even if it's a famous musical like Oliver. And I remember being in the big bar room scene and Bill Sykes is singing his song, like, I'm Bill Sykes. And he went up on the lyrics and I saw the fear in his eyes. And it's like everybody on stage kind of braced. And we're like, how can we help? What can we do? And then he just he took a deep breath, didn't miss a beat, and then just started talking about things that he saw on the set while he was singing. And there's the long table there, and the people standing close to me. And we took up the chorus, and our chorus became whatever came out of his mouth. And it was one of the most ensemble building, terrifying, hilarious moments that I can remember on stage. Because we were all there with him. And we're like, if this is what we're singing, this is what we're going to sing.
Oliver suddenly became an improvised musical.
Yes.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
But it's also awesome that like all of you sort of just went, okay, we're doing this and we're supporting, and that's awesome. That is.
And so now the phrase "people standing close to me" is what I say when I go up on a line in a rehearsal, not in a performance. But it's my own little joke and my little homage to that time. Very special time.
That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, for you, sir.
I thought about this one, and the one that came quickest to me happened not too long ago. At Disney's Hollywood Studios, we had an event called Galactic Nights, and it was all came out when the newer movies came out, like The Force Awakens. They had this night event, and it was hosted by me and a fellow performer by the name of Elise. And it was the first time we were doing this together. And the night ended with a big fireworks celebration. But we had a lot of rehearsal leading up to it that week. So this is the opening night. And I was very tired because I was pulling a couple of doubles and stuff. And we went out together to introduce the end of the night. We're talking all night, but the end of the night, we introduced the fireworks. And my brain went into the end of the night and not the introduction to the fireworks. So she's standing next to me, and we go out, and I close the whole night. I just go, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and I just close it off. And I turn around and just walked off. And as I was walking, she stayed there, and she looked at me, and I was like, oh, no, I forgot. So she just took what she knew of my lines and started like speaking them and kind of going, because, she didn't really know my lines, but she, again, is kind of improvising, like setting up the fireworks, and I'm slowly turning around just to make it look like I planned to do it. And I came back around to her. By the time I came back around to her, she had got back on track to get to her lines to introduce the fireworks. And the unique thing is that I gave her so much props because I was the professional. She had never done anything like that before.
Oh.
And I just really complimented her and say, you know what? Your instinct to do that was fantastic. And this is your first time ever. And I failed you as the professional, but you took the reins and you ran with it and you brought us back. So Elise, in her as a rookie, saved that moment. And I was very happy to be a part of it. I think it's something she'll remember. And I was also very proud of it.
That is awesome. It's good that both of them were like sort of like improvised, just going. Yeah. That's excellent. I think that's so. Now that you mention it, Cynthia, weren't you on the Star Cruiser?
I was indeed a part of the Star Cruiser. That would be another of my my proud brag moments. I was part of the initial 12-person workshop, as well as the opening cast and crew, and I was on it all the way to the end.
Oh, congratulations! That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Mark, you not sure if you can answer this, but you used to build lightsabers. You used to help people build lightsabers at.
Yes, I still do. At Savi. So Cynthia would know. We kind of have a connection. They have the Saja.
The Saja, yes, know all about Savis, and we were always sending our devotees there on Batu to study more about the force.
And if I ever got people from the Star Cruiser, I'd be happy to say and tell the Saja, thank you for getting you prepared for this moment. So we'd always try to, I don't know if you ever got those messages back, but it was fun for us to share those messages back and forth. And
that was the wonderful thing about the Star Cruiser experience, is that you could weave all the stories of Batu and Savis into the life of what you were living on the Star Cruiser.
Yeah.
So
very nice.
It was fun to be a part of that full story.
That's awesome. It's awesome that there's such like a connection there between you two guys, but I don't think you've met before. Do you recognize Mark at all? Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And then, like, for instance, like Cynthia and I met via Mad Cow downtown Orlando. I sound designed a few shows for them. Were you just an allergist's wife?
No, I was in a bunch of shows there from 2016 on. I did The God Game and Grounded, the one-woman show about the airline, the Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
An 80-minute monologue. That was harder than Hamlet, actually.
Gotcha. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine doing a one person show at all. Just
I
like
can't even think for 80 minutes straight.
You
that's
get pretty
wild.
darn focused when it's all eyes on you.
Impressive.
And, yeah. But I've directed there as well. So Allergist Wife was the second show I did with Tony Samotis. He was the director there. He directed a number of shows. But that one certainly was one of the funniest productions I've ever been a part of.
Do you also help people with wands at a certain place?
I did for a bit of time. I like to joke that with my work in many of the different entertainment parks in this town, I make my living giving magic sticks to children or helping them play with them. Children and
Yeah.
adults. That was quite a joy. I left that line of work to cruise with the Halcyon.
Ah,
And I'm eager to return. I keep putting in my job application at all of Andres.
oh,
We'll see if they need some new employees with the opening of the new park.
I really hope they do. I really hope they do. But my connection, I'm not sure if you know this about me. I was a conductor for a while.
How
Oh,
wonderful!
Yeah, I was the conductor of the Hogwarts Express. I was a sub, so I only did like half a dozen shifts total. But it's just it's so interesting just seeing like the people evolve over time with these parks and how the parks as they treat entertainment has changed as well. But I'll get back into the questions. It's just wild that you'll have the connection, and then yeah. Um, in as much detail as possible, Mark,
mhm.
please describe the most wild or strange audition or casting experience you've ever had.
Yes, I had an audition that I had to sign an NDA about 15 years ago, so it's expired.
Oh, that's good. This is great.
Yeah. So the people that did the Blair Witch Project, they were from Orlando. And Cynthia, you've been around. You probably know them or heard of them.
I worked with Ben Rock, who was the art
Okay.
director for Blair Witch, as a director out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Did some Shakespeare with him. So yeah.
So they were going to do Blair Witch was a huge hit. I mean, everyone. I remember I fell for it when I first saw on Sci-Fi Network. They had the documentary about these kids that disappeared, and I watched it. And they didn't tell you it was fake. They didn't even tell you a movie was coming out. You watch this documentary about these kids that got lost, and they interview all these people, and it's very realistic. And I'm watching this thing, and then all of a sudden, the trailer comes out. We have the footage. We didn't find them, but we have this footage, and now we're going to make a movie about it. And I go to see this movie. To this day, still one of my favorite movies of all time. Scared me, and people go, as a guy who loves makeup, why did it scare you? And it was because it was all in your imagination. It was like you didn't see a witch, you didn't see a monster. It was just well done. So anyway, I loved it. So they were moving on to a new project, and this project they wanted to make like a cult, and they wanted to make it very realistic. So they were auditioning a certain type of person, a certain look, and I had that look, and I got all the way to be on the short list. So every time I went in, I was the leader of the cult, and they would give me a topic, and I had to talk about it. And we were called the Lovians, and what we were doing, what they wanted, they told me that if you get this role, Mark, I was still working at Disney at the time. They said, if you get this role, we'll call you at any time. And we have a group of people, and we'll go to these places where things are happening. Like if there was a flood or a storm or a tornado, we want you to be there spreading love, and you're just helping people. So before we got to that, so they told me that's the idea, right? They would just call me at a drop of a hat and be like, hey, we need you to fly to Texas because something happened, and we have a group of the Lovians, and you lead, and you just in your robe, and you're talking, and you're sharing love. And so they would give me topics to talk about and how love can change it. So every time I went in, they would say, okay, what if this happened? How would you do it? And I would talk about, well, if it was a hurricane, I guess I would get everybody together, and we would make tents and just tell people where they can live temporarily. And those were the exercises. And then they showed me the secret handshake, and they said that now they were going to start doing graffiti around Orlando, and that we were called the Lovians. And I would actually see it, and I couldn't say anything. There'd be these big graffiti on the walls that say Lovians, and they had a thing called a palm heart, and it was like a palm with a heart in it, and it would say Lovians were here. And the idea was we would do this over and over again, and the media would pick up what we were doing
Oh my
and
god!
start filming
Yeah.
us. and we'd be as realistic as we could. And the idea was to keep doing it as long as they could. And then the end game was to we would do something big and go away. And then they would make a movie about it. And the movie, the reason I was doing it, it would star Chris Rock.
Wow.
And then in the end, they would say it was all fake. And they would show the documentary of the audition and all this stuff to prove that it was fake. So that was an audition it was the coolest thing. I was excited about it, but it was very strange. I had to work very hard coming up with these ideas and really thinking this way. And they would show me the handshakes, and, give me a lot of information. And it was the first time I think I signed an NDA where they were like, you can't talk about this. I don't even think I signed anything. They were just like, yeah, you can't talk about it. So that was the strangest audition, and nothing ever came of it. We never even got to filming. It just kind of fizzled out. And so, but that was fun, and it was very strange, and I enjoyed being part of something because I got to see the inside of the people who created the Blair Witch, to see them work on another project. And like I said, it never came to fruition, but it was fun to be part of that process and saying, oh wow, was this like what Blair Witch was like? So I would say that would be it. I never spoke about that before.
That's real weird, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. That is a trip. You were auditioning for a cult. How far would you take it? Like, I know it's like, what are the key tenets of the Lovians? Like, what were the mission?
The mission was about love, right? It was very much about love. So I think they really wanted that look of like a hippie cult from the 70s, but at that time in the 90s. And really, but the difference was that we would get in our little van and go to places where things were happening. And just like, and they really wanted to like us just to be just loving and trying to do stuff. And then they wanted media to try to say, what is this? And then we'll do the movie and say, hey, we know what happened, and here's the documentary, and they have Chris Rock playing it. And they were going to, Chris Rock, I don't know if it was going to be a comedy or a dark comedy. And then, like I said, the real kicker was, and by the way, this was all fake. We got you. And then they'll show the footage of when we were here. You thought we were real. Remember that moment? Remember this moment? Remember that? It was all planned. And that's what they were going for.
Talk about immersive theater. I mean, that's creating the entire situation, generating all the hype and story. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I wish we got to do it. I mean, I wish it happened. But I think maybe, they all got successful and they got pulled apart to do different things.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I did not expect that. It's not what I expected at all. But thank you. That's amazing. I appreciate that. Lovians. There you go.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
I was about to say, we're doing, perfect. Thank you. Wow, Cynthia, how about you? How's your weirdest audition experience?
I don't have anything nearly as fun or exotic. I've had wonderful audition experiences that fulfilled like childhood fantasies. I became an actor because of Star Wars. I realized when I saw the movie as a child that these were grown-ups playing dress up. And I figured that's a thing you can do when you grow up. And so I thought I might like to do that. And because I loved playing with swords and, sticks and bows and arrows and Robin Hood and King Arthur knights. And so that was just a natural expression of that. But the first time I auditioned for Trials of the Temple at Hollywood Studios to be, only in Disney World can you be a Jedi. Like that's your job title. So I go in and they show us the fight choreography, and we're using very, very nice prop sabers, choreographers, hardcore. And I've had a lot of fight training, and I've actually done competitive fencing. So I'm like, oh, this is me. I'm ready. And for the audition, which was magnificent, they set the scene. They brought us into the big audition room, and they played the soundtrack from Return of the Jedi, like from the big lightsaber battle scene between Luke and Vader. And so you have all this music, and you're supposed to face off against the bad guy, and you have to do this series of moves that they've taught you, and you have to really sell it, and then you have to use a force push and push them away. And it was so, I was just enraptured. I felt like I was there. I was there, on the, not just on the movie set, but in the world, because the soundtrack's playing in my head, and I'm ready to be a Jedi. And I take my first position, and the director says, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Since 1977, baby." And everybody just fell apart.
Oh man.
I did a great job. I auditioned for that every time it came up. Never got to put Jedi on my resume, but did get to create the genre of the Saja, which are Jedi adjacent. That's a good audition. I had one that stuck out in my mind was one that I had in Orlando for some film back when we were going to be Hollywood East back in the 90s. Everyone had big ideas and even bigger egos. And I walk into an audition, it's a couple of men, the characters, your generic femme, they used to call them fillies. It's like, you are just the cute girl in the movie. That's the only reason you're there. These were in the days when films were written by men, produced by men, for men, starring men. Men. So I walk in, and I'm about to do the read, and the director is talking to me, keeps looking at me, and he's like, "Hey, how old are you?" And I'm like, "Old enough to know better," because that's always my go-to line. And he says, "No, really?" And I said, "No, really. I'm over 18. I'm legal to work in this state, and how old do you need me to be? How old is the character?" And he kept saying, "You need to tell me how old you are." And I said, I don't, and actually that's not legal. And he said, "Well, listen, it's not a union film." And I'm like, "But you still should be abiding by the rules of it." And he just kept on about it. And finally, I looked at him, and you can cut this out later if you want. And I said, "Well, how long is your dick?" And I said, "You tell me how long your dick is, and I'll show you my driver's license." And then he glared at me for a few more moments, and then I got up and walked out of the audition.
As you should.
Yeah.
So that's
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Iconic.
I didn't get the job, and I don't know.
He didn't get your age, so.
And he didn't get your age.
Yeah.
So.
He didn't get my age. Nobody gets my age, baby.
It's interesting because if you don't mind, Alex, I'll share an audition where I felt uncomfortable. I remember I went to an audition in Orlando, and it was for a commercial, and I read the lines, and the director was like, "You're a little how can I put this? A little too articulate." I was like, "Excuse me?" And he says,
"Oh my God.
You're a little too articulate. Can you read it again?" And I was like, "Sure." And I read it again, and he's like, "Yeah, there it is again. It's just too articulate." I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Can you black it up a little bit?" And I was like,
Ooh.
"What?" And he's like, throw some slang in there and break some words off. And I was like, I said, "You know what? I think you got the wrong guy. Thank you." And I just left. I was like, "Oh no." And it's like, no, it didn't need that. It wasn't written that way. It was just that's what he saw me as. And so yeah. Then I asked him, how long's your dick?
You should have.
You should have.
Can you dick it up a little bit more?
Yeah, can you dick it up a little bit?
Oh man.
So you got to cut that out too, Alex. I just want to give you two things to cut out.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not cutting out swearing, but I can cut out the dick.
You don't have to cut it out. You can keep it in. I didn't,
what is the most? Oh, I have to choose a person to ask first. Cynthia, what is the most eccentric or unexpected thing you've been paid to do as a creative or otherwise?
I feel like I do so many strange things for a living that none of them really pop anymore as being the most eccentric. I mean, I've been a birthday clown, and I've been a burlesque dancer, and I've I mean, as a performer, I honestly don't have an answer to that. I'm very
That's
embarrassed.
interesting. No worries. Let me give you an example. Let me give you um, my answer to this
Okay.
is one time I was contacted to beatbox at a megachurch for their Christmas service. They had I was in my college a cappella group for about 5 minutes, but during those 5 minutes, it was recorded and then put onto Facebook. And this guy who ran the praise band for this megachurch that met in an arena that had like 5,000 people in South Carolina contacted me. He's like, "Hey, yeah, I see like on Facebook that you're like you beatbox and like we're doing this pentatonic song for our Christmas service, and we need a beatboxer. So like, could you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds. I've never been paid for beatboxing. Yeah, let's do that." And he's like, "Yeah, so like, is $400 for 3 performances good for you?" And I'm like, "Sounds about right." But like,
Yep.
yeah, so that was wild that I got paid to beatbox at a Christmas service at a megachurch. So that was sort of the thing. Like I know that you've done a lot of wild things. You've been, you know, a wizard. You've been force adjacent. You've been some other things. But yeah, does that help jog anything, or want me to cut over to
I
Mark?
would say go to Mark next while I think about it. I have some unusual things that because I'm an actor, I have been asked to do. They weren't done for money, but for love of the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to remember if I've jumped out of birthday cakes at any politicians something, but no, that was only wishful thinking.
That's fine.
Um,
Here, ponder with your thoughts, and we'll cut over to Mr. Daniel.
Hmm.
Mark.
You know, I'm kind of with Cynthia. It's almost like you know, a friend of mine, Louis Gravance. He used to work at Disney. He's one of the people that pioneered Streetmosphere at studios.
Hmm.
And he worked on the original, I think, Traditions training. He now does um, speeches about service as a superpower, and he does that professionally now. He does these big speaking engagements. But I got the pleasure of working with him, and he calls Orlando the new vaudeville because he's like, this is where actors do everything. This is what vaudeville used to be.
Yeah.
You know, and like just hearing your career, Cynthia, it's just the truth. You know,
mhm.
we do so much, so it's like it's kind of hard to say unless it was like really embarrassing. But then sometimes it's like we're so used to doing things that are embarrassing, we don't even have that anymore. We're like, sure, I'll be a clown in an afro. Yeah, yeah, I'll be a fish, at the pool. Um, but I think if I had to pick one of the strangest things I'd ever done was I used to work for a company called Book It. They're still around, and they do a lot of lookalikes. So I'm not really a lookalike, but he would hire me to sometimes be a man in black for like kids parties and stuff. But the coolest thing I did was he made me look like Bob Marley at the Hard Rock that I think like it's one of the Hard Rocks, either in Miami or Boca Raton or something. And they had these really cool columns. So they had a Britney Spears, an Elvis. I was Bob Marley. They had a hip hop representation, and we had to stand in between the pillars like statues. So we just basically, I was like a Bob Marley with a guitar, just So it was statue sets, and we've all seen statues. Like you can move every once in a while. You can like, but I'd never been a statue set made to look flesh, So we were like these mannequins. So that was probably one of the most unique things I'd done, and it was really cool. People, they enjoyed it. We were just kind of like, kind of posing. They would just come and take pictures because the way it was set up, it looked like we should have been there. Just the way
Yeah.
the Hard Rock was
Yeah.
built, and putting us between the pillars that were lit, just made it look like instead of photos on the wall or pictures on the wall, we were these mannequins. So probably I would say that. If I have to think. But everything else is kind of like par for the course. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do it.
I actually did something similar to that in South Carolina for a corporate event, and you'll get a kick out of this. I was Indiana Jones, which it's hilarious because Mark works at Indiana Jones, and that's where we met. I was a technician there, for a while. But yeah, it was this corporate thing for an airplane company in Greenville, South Carolina. Basically, the person who was in charge of it just hired everybody she knew from community theater
Okay.
in our little town in Easley, South Carolina. And I'm like, she's like, all right, we need a bunch of like characters from the 80s or something of that nature. Or I forget if indie was more 80s or 70s, but from that era. And she's like, where can I put you? Let's make you Indiana Jones. Do you have brown pants? Do you have a leather jacket? Do you have? I think I have a whip. And yeah, I got paid $100 gift card for that. But
Nice.
yeah, it's interesting when you're doing lookalikes and trying to act like. Did you have to do like any improv with it at all, or was it just like the statues?
No, just statue. But it was interesting to me though, because I'd never been around people who do lookalikes for a living. Like spend time with them. And like I said, it was Britney and Elvis, and they it's serious. Nothing wrong with that. They are pretty serious. I'm just kind of like, I think I look like Bob Marley. But luckily, I didn't have to talk, do an accent. But these other people that were with me, they did it professionally, and they could talk if they wanted to, and sing and different things like that. But for that job, we just had to be statues. And they were, I think, a few of them were complaining because they were like, but the job was to not move.
Job was not to move. That's awesome. Thank you.
Actually did jog my memory. I got paid, again, this was back in the 90s, in Orlando, to be a Laura Dern lookalike. This was right after Jurassic Park came out, and I had long blonde hair, and a lot of people would mistake me for her at the time. And I got paid to be a sort of a host for a lookalike competition at the local mall in Orlando. But from that, I did a whole photo shoot as Laura Dern, and I was trying to like find other opportunities to double her or to, be a lookalike. And during this period, I went to Planet Hollywood for lunch with my sister one time, and the waitstaff was being terribly obsequious. They were just fawning all over our table and bringing us special things and offering all sorts of service and complimentary things. And then at the end of the meal, when I asked for the check, the manager came out and said, "Oh, your meal is complimentary, Miss Dern. It is such an honor to have you here. Would you please autograph a menu?" And I was like, I looked at my sister and she looked at me and I was like, "Why, I would be delighted to." So the autograph, Laura Dern's autograph at Planet Hollywood in the 90s in Orlando was my autograph.
Hilarious.
Oh, I didn't want to tell them it wasn't me. I thought it was great. I got a wonderful free meal out of it.
Wow. That's awesome.
I don't mean to hijack this question, but that reminded me, not my experience, my father, who was also in the entertainment business, but he is in a band. But he went on this cruise with my mom, complimentary of someone that he played for, who had some money. And so he was on this cruise, and it was full. It was also in the 90s, and full of just very intoxicated individuals. And my father looks shockingly like Dan Aykroyd. And the entire cruise, people were coming up to him, taking pictures, asking him to autograph things. And my dad just said, "Of course, don't tell Mrs. Aykroyd about the woman I'm with." And that people ate it up. They ate it up. And now sitting in probably bins in somebody's attic are a bunch of pictures of my father with Dan Aykroyd's signature on it. So, interesting how that works out.
That's funny.
It's just so much more fun to go with it.
Right.
But there was another thing just occurred to me. The strangest or most unusual thing that I got paid to do was, and this was in the early aughts in Los Angeles, I played the president's national security advisor in an FBI training film. And I couldn't put it on my resume, and I couldn't get footage because it was classified. And it was basically we were acting out either scenarios that had happened or were similar to cases so that FBI agents could watch how it plays out, how the information is brought to the National Security Advisor. And I was briefing these 4-star generals. And then there was an agent who was embedded. And then there was a whole other scene where they were infiltrating something or other. And it was great. And I had all the dialogue and it was all about me. And I couldn't use any of the footage. And I couldn't even put it on my resume.
Oh, that's so sad.
But yeah, because it was for a training film. But they gave me a check and said, thank you very much. It always reminded me of the scene in Wag the Dog, where Kirsten Dunst is playing the girl, and they're trying to get footage so it looks like the village is being attacked. And she's like, "Hey, can I put this on my resume?" And he's like, "No." "Well, what happens if I do?" "People will come to your house and kill you." Like, "Oh, okay." So yeah,
that would deter me.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Even the FBI needs actors.
True.
That is true. There is just so much like within what you can do as an entertainer or a performer or someone who sells their body for time in whatever manner. That's as actors we sell our body ourselves in whatever action that it is doing. So there was something, Mark, you said something about like Orlando being one of the only places like a vaudeville at the moment where like entertainers can get like almost get a livable wage, or at least as close to it as you can, then except for going like to New York or LA. But even then, the cost of living there is insane. But it's just like, like even just for technicians as well, like Disney and Universal and everything around Orlando needs so many technicians. And it's also one of the only places you can be a full-time entertainment technician with benefits and, a guaranteed job. And it's really interesting that Orlando has sort of become the only place that you can do that at the moment. So
I have made my living exclusively as an entertainer and performing artist for the past 8 years. I haven't had to have all of my side jobs are actor related. And again, it's only here, only in Orlando can we do that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
It's a little wild. I do miss it sometimes. I do miss living in Florida. I don't miss living in Florida other times. There's a lot of it's a double-edged sword there. But yeah, it's a magical place. It really is. So, has production management or the executives of any performance or production that you're doing ever asked you to do something in all seriousness when in fact it was physically impossible?
I've never really had that experience. I've been under some stressful situations, but luckily for me, those stressful situations created growth, and I was able to come out stronger. So luckily, like I say, in my career, I've been lucky enough to not been asked to do something that I physically could not do and had to navigate that. The thing that comes to mind is we had an event called Frozen Summer Fun at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And they were going to focus on Frozen. They were going to have a parade, a fireworks show, and they wanted it up very quickly. I think this is when the Wizarding World was opening at Universal. And so Disney really wanted something, and they wanted something quick. So I think we were working day and night. We were like sleeping in the park. They just got hotel rooms for everyone.
Gosh.
And we were going, let me not tell you about the text. The text, they had RVs backstage for the text. And you know how it is, Alex. Text got no sleep.
No.
At least the actors just went home late. But they got us hotel rooms and stuff. And that was something that was really hard for us to get up and going, I think, in 2 weeks, like from scratch, like a parade and a fireworks show. And as an actor, I had a show. I was doing 3 shows. I had a show in the morning with Olaf on the screen, and then you would host a parade in the daytime, and then you also hosted the fireworks show at night. So there was a lot of scripts floating around and a lot of moving pieces. But we got it up and running. But I will say after that, I think Disney I've noticed a lot of rehearsal processes have been cut a little shorter after we accomplished that because it worked. Not that it's not as short as it was, but Disney was like, well, it's 3 weeks. Let's do it in 2.5. So that would be the closest to me having that kind of situation where I was asked to do something I physically could not do. So again, knock on wood. I don't remember, and if it did, I blocked it out. It's traumatic. I'll get back to you after I talk to my therapist.
No worries. And also, I didn't. Thank you for sharing that. First of all, that sounds absolutely insane. The designer folks at Disney, when they have to design a show, they are working. They're like, especially like the people who are programming like the the projection mapping on the castles, and especially for like the projection shows at Disney Hollywood Studio, because in that main sort of the Chinese theater section, there are at least 4 $250,000 projectors in each of those towers that project, because they have to project through. Sometimes the sun's not all the way down and stuff of that nature, and they just have to project. Yeah, it's wild. I got to go into one of those towers one time. On my snow duty when I did so for Jingle, was it Jingle Bell? No, that's Hollywood. No, it was Hollywood Studios. Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam.
I'm the narrator, by the way. Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam.
It was really funny sometimes when you would finish like our last show at Epic for the night, but you would also be playing in the park at the same time. So while you were giving your ending show, you could also hear Mark Daniel in the park. It was great. But I had to go on all the roofs of the buildings and literally with this huge jug fill these snow machines. And one of our tech shifts was just doing that for that show.
Literally snow job.
Yeah, literally. Yep. That was great. That was great. Cynthia.
Yeah, the whole experience with Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser, because it was something that had never been done before.
Yeah.
They didn't know how long it would take. They didn't know what it would entail. So we were up against a lot of time constraint, but there were so many moving parts for that show because actors had to finish something downstairs at just the right time, that when they brought their group of people upstairs, someone would be coming out of another experience and there could be an altercation in the middle of the lobby. And there were times when it was, it's like I'm literally being asked to be in 2 places at once. And it was very difficult. And because we all wanted to make it work. And I was like, oh, it would be so cool if I could be, if I finish this up quicker, then I could be there. And there were times that we really tried to do things and it became almost comic because we were acting so fast with such high intention in order to make the timing work. But with the best intentions. But that is one time where I literally did not know if I was coming or going or how we were going to be able to make it work. And then somehow it all came together.
Productions come together. Yeah. Wow. It's awesome. Yeah. I can't I would not even begin to comprehend all the stuff that went into trying to do that cruiser, that immersive experience and everything. No.
Our director had all the time code written out, like this has to take place at this time and this, and it looked like the Matrix. There were all these different lines of text that overlapped, and she could look at it and see it and go, yeah, okay, I understand. And the rest of us looked at it and go, what is that? And she's like, don't worry, it's the Matrix. But it all fit into a perfectly cohesive plan.
That really reminds me of have you ever seen something by Punch Drunk Productions? Either Sleep No More in New York or The Drowned Man in London.
The same director who created Sleep No More, Michael Terragarver, was our director and creator for the Star Cruiser.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh!
Wow. So that's
wow! That's
makes sense, doesn't it?
That makes so much sense. That's so cool that there's the connection there. I have not seen Sleep No More, but I saw The Drowned Man. And for Caid and Mark, if you're not familiar with Punch Drunk Productions, what they do is they create this show that is immersive. It's immersive theater, much like the Halcyon was. but it's meant to be like a 3-hour performance. But there's like 20 characters. They all have their paths through this 3-floor warehouse that's completely set dressed to the extent, like, I went into there's like a town center on one of the floors with a fountain and with like a little police station. And I've gone to a police station, and all the books, every single like book is filled with content, handwritten, like a booking, book and stuff of that nature. But they do the whole show 3 times. They do the loop 3 times, so you can choose to follow different characters for different loops of the show and sort of get like a different experience. And all throughout it, like the actors might just grab somebody and then take them into a secret room or something. It's really cool, and it's so much of theater is like, oh, this is just this one moment. They'll never be performed this way again. It'll never be run this way again. And then just Punch Drunk just adds another. It's like you really step in and experience that world too. So I really hope that trend continues on and people figure out how to manage it better, because it's really, really nice. So yeah, I got off on that. Cool. Not sponsored by Punch Drunk Productions, but God, they do some beautiful work.
Immersive theater, really, it does feel like that is the wave of the future, because it involves the audience. The audience is part of the storytelling. And there are audiences who want to just sit back and be entertained, and there will always be content for that. But for those who want to be a part of the story or to tell their own story, immersive theater is very exciting. We were taught in our training for the Galactic Star Cruiser that we were not there to present a story. We were there to facilitate the guests being able to tell us their story. So we gave them a framework in which to play. And if they came on board dressed as a Jedi, we would address them as a Jedi and ask them for their backstory. And then whatever they said, we were like, this is the story. This is the truth. And then we would introduce them to other actors as, this is Jedi so-and-so, and they have come from, they're on this mission. And we're like, great, how can we make you a Jedi for the next 2 days on board? And that's, somebody else is a smuggler, somebody is a senator from Naboo. And it took the pressure off, because we were all wondering, like, how do we do this thing? How do we tell this very complex story? And once our director could make us realize that it wasn't about us. It's all about the guest. It's all about creating a framework for them to hang their experience on and to build as much of a living world as they wanted. Very satisfying. So yes, I think there is a lot of immersive in the works. I can say for a fact that there is some happening here in Orlando, because me and several friends who were on the Halcyon are now trying to create more experiences like that, because it is so satisfying. And we're seeing it all over the country, all over the world. Things are popping up.
Yeah, and I think I want to jump in on this, Cynthia. I think it's important too, because so much now, this generation is, and the theme parks are encouraging it, but people are face down in their phones.
Yep.
And it's to pull you out of it. It's like, we have escape rooms. Families get it. They understand it. You go to an escape room, and it's kind of your story, because you're just in that room, whether you go with friends or family or strangers, and you're trying to, figure this out, but there's no one, the story's there, and then you interact with it. So I think it's even more important now, because that will encourage people to get their face out of their phones, or just film something like, I got it, and I'm going to show it to my friends, this video, and just put the phone down and be a part of it. So I'm glad that is catching on, and it's, I look forward to the future of it.
Love escape rooms.
Weren't you an escape room moderator for a while?
I am still a virtual escape room host. It's a little side.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Hey, Caid, what's your funnest, or what's your most fondest story or craziest story from your escape rooms?
Oh,
I want to hear that now.
Oh my gosh. One of my clients was Major League Baseball, and the vice president of Major League Baseball, the company, was on my team. And at first, I can't disclose any information about the escape rooms, but At first, they were not getting it. That whole team, they were like, "There's a baseball." That was a little joke that we had throughout the whole thing. But at the very end, because what it is basically it's all virtual. You could do it in your pajamas, but it is slides and presentations and puzzles they have to piece together on the computer and things like that. But at the very end of this entire escape room, all of a sudden, the vice president said, "Oh, I got it," and then said just the answer to the puzzle that everyone was trying to figure out that we had spent maybe 30 minutes on. And all of a sudden, they were just like, "Yep, this is it." And they ended up winning. It's a competition between different parts of the company, but they ended up winning because one person who didn't speak up the entire time we were doing this said the answer at the very final second. And it was incredible. Everyone was cheering. People were like throwing papers around. It looked like an actual baseball game had been won. It was incredible. And it was my first ever game with the company.
Oh
So
my
that was the
gosh.
standard every single time I
Wow.
went into work. But yeah, no, that I love immersive properties of any sort because that reaction when they're so involved, when especially if there's like a prize at the end, whether you're getting like the best time or if your boss is giving, I don't know, a fruitcake to whoever wins, that kind of just wild and crazy and joyful reaction to things like that. I mean, the best, the most fun I've ever had with that. So
Really,
that happens often in my company. So
really,
I'll link everybody, the company at the end. But yeah, thank you for asking me that question. Also, if
Absolutely.
you hear jingling, my cat is trying to break into my office. So sorry if you hear the door.
Time's up.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry you're
they
being
know how to open
besieged.
doors. They
Yeah.
know how to open doors.
Clever
Cynthia,
girl.
I saw you want to hop in there. Sorry.
oh yeah, I think that people want to be a part of the story, and there has only ever been like performer and audience for centuries, and people will say, "Oh, I love that movie because I really it got to me. I felt what the characters were feeling. It was exciting. It was invigorating. It was scary." And it's really, they want to be in the story. You want to feel that story. And the reason that movies, traditional us and them, audience and performer things are so popular, the good ones really make you feel like you're in the story. And it just seems a natural extension because art, acting and drawing and dancing, and that is not just the purview of the artist. Every human being has the desire to act, to play, to tell stories, to drum on something, to dance, to sing. So it is part of every human's birthright is to participate in the arts. And we have made a sort of a class society of, oh, you must be an artist, you must train, and it's separate from the rest of the world. And you can only consume art if you are not an artist. But I think there's so many ways now, like being in the theme park, being immersed in the worlds that we create. That's what people love so much about going there, because they are part of the story. They get to live the movies. They get to be a part of the magic. They are in that world, and that's why working in Orlando is so satisfying to me. It's like come on over to my house and play, but my house is a billion-dollar theme park.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just feels really good.
That is. Thank you for sharing that, Cynthia. I absolutely agree. And we need to talk at some point because one of my like phase 7 goals is an immersive theme park.
Good.
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. That's awesome. I'm glad that other people feel that way because that Punch Drunk production like changed my life. Like just showed me just this fourth dimension of theater that it could be, and it's amazing. God, there was something else. What was I say? I was going to say, oh, it's so interesting that you say like humans crave play. Essentially, that is the fundamental, like, play and joy go hand in hand, and I see that in my toddler. She's almost 4 now, but she just dances because she wants to dance. She wants to sing when she wants to sing, or she wants to just be in this immersive world that she creates out of these toys. Oh, this is a pillow. It's a washcloth, and it's a pillow. And it's so interesting. It's unfortunate that as we grow older, we are just beaten out. The play is beaten out of us. We have to be serious. We can't. If you are stuck in this fantasy, you'll never be in the real world. But you can make the real world your fantasy as well. So that just resonated with me. I'm just like, well, yep, that's my daughter. It's great seeing her just feel free to do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
But I digress. Mark, did you want to say something on that topic before we?
Yeah, in play, I also work with SAC Comedy Lab here in Orlando, and I also do improv, corporate improv with them. And again, to your point, we teach adults to play again. It's about looking at the world a different way because, like you said, it's been beaten out of them. So, I'm fortunate that I love to play. I always play. I never wanted to grow up, and I get to teach people how to play again. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I'm glad you have time with all your emceeing at Disney to also do stuff at SAC.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Oh, one of my favorite memories, Mark, was when we were talking about this. You probably don't remember this, but I knew you were a candlelight like substitute or guest host for the candlelight processional at Disney at Epcot. And like you're like, yeah, I just have a suit in my car, and if they call me, I go. If Tom Selleck's flight is delayed or something of that nature, I just go. It's so wild how many different opportunities there are when you get to sort of that level within the theme parks, and you get your legacy. Since I've seen you last, right? You got your legacy. Mark, could you explain for Caid? I'm not sure if Caid, and I don't even fully know. Can you explain what the Disney Legacy Award is besides a blue?
Yeah, well, I want to go back in time a little bit to say that. So before the Legacy Award came along, there are these awards that they give out at the Walt Disney Company, and it's voted upon with your peers. And the first one, which I have here, was called the Partners in Excellence Award. So when you get the Partners in Excellence Award, you've been voted on your peers that you inspire the people around you. You are you're very positive to work with, and there's a committee, so they vote for you, and they have to explain in a essay why you deserve the Partners in Excellence Award. And then when you get that award, you get to wear a little tag on your name tag that says that you were a Partners in Excellence winner. But throughout the Disney company, Walt Disney World had Partners in Excellence, Disneyland had something else, and the other parks around the world had all different things. So they consolidated it, and they call it the Legacy Award now. And you can only win the Partners in Excellence once. So when they redid it, they said, well, we're now calling it the Walt Disney Legacy Award. And everybody's eligible again, even if you won the Partners in Excellence. So again, I was fortunate enough to also win the Legacy Award. So the Legacy Award is given to people that people feel that create dream, you create, and you inspire people around you. So you have to write an essay on why this person is a dreamer, why this person is, and then there's a committee that votes on it as they talk about, the reasons and everything like that. So because I won that, I was a Partners in Excellence winner. They retired my Partners in Excellence pin, and that's when you see the blue name tags around Walt Disney World. So they have a blue name tag with a diamond in the middle, which makes you a Legacy Award winner. So I was able to retire this name tag and now wear a blue name tag. So that is a very... So I'm very honored to have both of those awards with the Walt Disney Company, and I'm going on 32 years with the Walt Disney Company. And it's been, and I've been in it's strange because I've been in entertainment the whole time. Everything I learned at Disney. I
Your
learned
first
from
fur
the
character,
opportunities.
if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I started in the parades. I wasn't even that yet. I carried the
Oh,
canopy in the electric light parade. Um,
wow.
and if you remember the electric light parade, it's you carried a canopy with lights on it. There were dancers dancing under it, and I was just supposed to work one summer, part time, carry this heavy canopy, and get the heck out. And I said
Wow.
I loved it. So I'm currently writing a book on my career through Disney, and it's told through all my memorabilia. So it's a lot of exclusive things that I have stories for each one of them. You saw the partners. It's Walt and Mickey, which is the partner statue that is at the Magic Kingdom in front of Cinderella Castle, and also in Disneyland. And so what we got for the Legacy Award, along with the blue name tag, is it's a picture that is a decommissioned stamp of Walt. It was a stamp that was created but never put into issue. So they made a giant size picture of that stamp, and we got that as a portrait, and the stamp and our name on it and everything. So that's the trophy you get as well.
That's awesome.
That is
That is really cool. And that is great. Thank you for
Thanks
sharing
for
that.
asking.
So Legacy is basically people like you so much they write essays about you.
Exactly. Yes.
Wow. Wish that happened to me in my daily life.
You know.
Would love an essay.
I'm noticing the statues behind you on that shelf. My mother may have sculpted one of those. She was a sculptor for Disney from 1989 through. She sculpted the parade, the Spectro Magic Parade that took the place of the Electric Light Parade.
Yeah, I did that too.
So,
wow.
I modeled for the feet of the hippo, the ballerina hippo.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, she carved all the Chernabog with the big wings that open and closed and all the characters on it. Yeah, he was scary. But she did a lot of the figures that were used for awards. And I was a scenic artist. That was my first paying gig when I moved here. So she sculpted them, I painted them, and now they sit on people's desks. And I'm
oh my
pretty
goodness,
sure
that's amazing. Yeah. So these awards, and I can say it because I'm not doing that anymore when I was in character. So when we would have these big banquets back in the 90s, character banquets they call them. And so they were like the Emmy Awards for the character department. There was a budget for it. It was a huge night. We would get dressed up and you would go and the performers would put on their own shows. If you were a dancer, you could do whatever you wanted to. And it was like a whole night of entertainment and food. It would happen at the Contemporary Resort. You can get a room if you want. It was all dressed up and it was these big gala events. And part of that was an awards ceremony. So up here I have 1997, I won the award for Outstanding Performer as Sweetums in the Muppet Vision 3D show. There's Sweetums comes running out. And then I won this one in 1995 for The Beast in Beauty and the Beast Live on Stage, which both shows are still running to this day. And then
that's awesome.
so she probably sculpted these Mickeys, and each one of them is different Mickey.
My mom sculpted the columns at the Beauty and the Beast, the very first Beauty and the Beast show, the caryatids that are holding the figures that are holding the sculpture for the big columns. She did those too.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know that very well doing the show. And then they had the ones that would rotate. There was a beast on one side, and when he changed, you didn't know it, but they would rotate the columns to be the cherubs. That's really neat. Look at that small world.
A lot of magic. We're all related.
One could say that it's a small world.
Small world. There you go. Fun fact: that was my only other stage when I was a stage technician. That I was.
Oh yeah, Beauty and the Beast.
I was regular.
Wow.
Yeah.
You probably had to rotate those cherubs, Alex.
I did. I also had to catch spoons.
Catch spoons is another one. Catch the spoons.
Yep. Got to catch spoons. I got to give somebody this foam ham hammock, is that what you call it? Ham hock. That's what ham hammock. And stuff of that nature. Yeah, that show is shows that have been around like Epic and Beauty and the Beast since the park opened in '89. There's people on these shows who know the show so well. It is like in their sleep, and they're just these machines. And when somebody new comes, they're just like, all right, welcome. Well, you'll get it eventually, but they're just like it's insane, like the amount of dedication that goes into some of these shows. Like at Epic, like Kevin Broussard's still being around, and like he's one of the original indies. He is still around doing indie and teaching the indies 30 years later. So it's really cool, and thank you guys for creating
There's
that.
a lot of passion in those shows. A lot of passion. All around, from the performers, the text, the guests that come to see it.
I'll tell you, I never felt camaraderie between the entire crew, the costumers, technicians, and cast, as I did at Epic. Epic is the short name for Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular.
There it is.
Thank you for saying that.
Epic,
yeah. Mark had to say that at the end of every show.
Wow.
But just the camaraderie between all the different groups, because there's usually such a divide between technicians and actors. And as someone who has feet planted firmly in both worlds, it's jarring, because I'm like, cool, I want to talk to my actor friends, I want to talk to my technician friends. But in a lot of the other shows, I mean, unfortunately, even like Beauty and the Beast, sometimes there was just this divide between some of the cast and the actors. But at Epic, everybody's in there together. Everybody's doing a bunch of things. Everybody is. I walked an average of 20,000 steps a day during my shift, just for my shift on Epic. When we did summer, we did it was 6 show days. There were 10-hour shifts for techs, and we would do 6 days a week. And we would get there before to do a full run of all the tech elements of the show. And then we would run each show, but after each show is about a 10-minute reset, where we have to literally pull tractors to pull the buildings back on and put the carts back in and reset all the hydraulics, everything else at the same time. But yeah, it's a very. I'm going on a rant now. I love the show. I really wish I did not have to leave my position at the stunt show. It's the most so much fun.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it helped that we were all on set together. And like I said, I call it a set. It is a stage, but it's more of a set than a stage because of what you mentioned, Alex. A lot of the tractors and the moving, and we're trusting each other for safety, looking out for each other. So that, I think it was normal for us to communicate and talk to each other while on set, and I think that helped with the connection between all of us, because there was no backstage. At Epic, everything is on stage, and that's what they came to see. That's the point of it.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was B camera operator, so like the camera dollies that go around, I was sitting there, acting like I'm shooting on this fake camera, real intently, but like I was a technician role, but I was right next to the entire main cast. I was next to the AD role, the director role, the Giants rest role, which is the demolition guy, and then the effects guy and stuff of that nature. They all hung out with the technicians during the show, because it's set like a film set. So it was really interesting being able to almost be an actor while you're being a technician, because you're acting like you're part of a film crew. Like before the Disney look guidelines were repealed, being at Epic was one of the most lax dress code things you could have, because we didn't have to wear our name tags, because it was a liability, because it was a safety issue.
Okay.
So I could wear almost whatever I wanted, as long as I didn't mind it getting covered with 30 years of pyro water, and stuff of that nature. But I could really wear whatever I wanted, and I could actually let my beard be a little bit longer than a 1/4 inch, which is the official Disney look guideline at the time. I know that they've loosened up their guidelines a lot. But it's really interesting. Epic was just a singular, exceptional stage, and I know there's so many other stages like that where they have their own sort of special, fun things that they get to do as part of their role, But yeah, I digress, and I'm going to get back into the interview now. But thank you for sharing that. I'm going to skip around a little bit. We've been really deep, and I really enjoyed the conversation that we've been having here today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun learning about everything.
Yeah, it's so wild that you two have been so adjacent in the Orlando world and have never met. is wild to me, but have
Same.
such similar stories
Yeah.
in what you guys have been working on. So
And I almost thought I knew everybody at the Halcyon, because so many people worked the Galaxy's Edge
Right.
as well, and then they would talk about the other people, because I was just fascinated, because like just knowing what it took, and then hearing my fellow performers talk about it, and then hearing these talented people that were part of it was just like, wow. And then Simon took me as one of the final tours when you could bring a guest, and I got to experience it. I had the honor of doing the pre-show for it, which was really cool. But I missed the moment to test it. I got the email late, so I had never done it. And so Simon brought me on as guest, so I got to see a condensed version of it. And I 100% loved it. And like you said, it was very much like I walked in with I had a baby Rancor, and I was a smuggler with my pet Rancor. And like I said, they wanted to know about it. You know, I would get Gaia walking up to me, tell me about your Rancor. And that was fun. Just like, you know, everybody, like you said, asking your story and letting you live it. It was just, it was a great experience. And then, like you said in the training, like when we did our training for Galaxy's Edge, nowhere near as immersive as a Star Cruiser, but still immersive, especially with Savi. And as you can imagine, as Asajj, it's very much immersive. And I learned a lot of things from Corey. Was one of our show directors. I think you might know Corey.
Yeah.
And he taught me some really amazing things. Side note, sorry, Alex, but this
no
is
worries. No, we're doing great. This is great.
Okay.
You can continue. No worries.
I learned something very important. When I was a performer at Epcot, I did World Showcase Players, which is like a trunk show, which is what SAC started when they first came to Orlando. They started the trunk shows at Epcot, and then they left to create SAC and came back and did it. And then Disney put it all together. So when I came on, I started doing these trunk shows. So you learn in the shows, because we had to bring people in, we needed two characters, right? We're doing King Arthur and the Holy Grail. We need King Arthur, we need Sir Lancelot. So you learn how to start the show, do the show, and interact with people and watch for the people that you know will play. That's who you're going to pick. So many years of that, of looking for the people that want to play. And so now I come to do Savi, and it's so intimate. And I'm looking for the people that want to play. And Corey really blew my mind. He said, there are two types of people that play. There are people that play out here, people that play in here. And it changed my whole idea. You would see somebody that looks like they're not into it. When they light that lightsaber, they're crying. And it's because they were playing in here. So I'm so used to playing outside that I forgot about the people that may look like they're not playing, but they're actually playing in here. And that piece of that insight changed my insight on a lot of things. And it gave me a great tool to learn how to read people even deeper. Like say, okay, I'm not going to tune you out. You're probably playing in here. And that was a piece of insight that was very valuable to me. I always take these little gems from all these amazing show directors at Disney. And everybody's so unique in their own way. But that really changed my thought process from so many years of looking for that person playing out loud.
It was one thing that we were trained to do on the Halcyon, is to look at people, to meet them where they are, to play with them at the level that they want to be engaged with. If someone is kind of hanging back and just enjoying what they're seeing, that's completely legit. You don't have to drag them into it. And one of the techniques we learned, which I had some of the most beautiful conversations because of it. If someone is just sort of sitting or standing against the wall watching things, they would teach us to just sort of like lean up against the wall next to them. Don't engage with them, but just like be where they are. Assume their body posture. And 9 times out of 10, they would lean over and start a conversation. I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I kind of like to hang back. Sometimes there's too much going on. You know, what do you think? And then they would be delighted to be drawn in, but at the level where they wanted to be, at their comfort level. So it was about building empathy. It was about performing with people, treating people the way they wanted to be treated.
Right.
And that takes an extra level of awareness. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to cultivate. And working in the theme parks has definitely given that opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. I really wish that I got to perform a little bit more in the theme parks with that crowd, because I felt so much anxiety. I feel the first couple of times that I went out there as a performer, knowing I have no lines, because as the conductor, I have no lines. I'm just interacting with the crowd. And I also had no person managing like a photo line either. So I had to manage my own photo line while interacting with the guests in a British accent, in a three-piece suit, in 90-degree weather,
Yeah.
while keeping track of time, because we also bumped ourselves out of our set.
Oh,
Wow. Nobody's.
Yeah, because we had a pocket watch. We had our golden pocket watch that didn't actually have time, but they taught us in training how to like look at the specific, like, this letter is 10 minutes. Then we would have to start walking back at a specific time before our set officially ended, to pass off. And the conductor is really interesting because it's one of the few characters that it is within canon and lore for multiples of the same to exist.
that's true.
So, for instance, if a conductor is held, like if there's a group from Brazil, for instance, that comes through and each of them want to take individual photos with the conductor, they might get stuck out there. So sometimes the other conductor can come out and actually bump the other, go get some tea, something of that nature, and then go from there. But it always gave me a lot of anxiety. But I really wonder if it would have been different if I did have that support team, if I did have somebody managing my photo line, or also, going, okay, the conductor has to leave now. Yeah, thank you. They'll be back in just a second, but it's interesting that you get to also experience so many different people from different cultures. And I know that just like trying to also balance your character with that so they don't feel uncomfortable. It's like you said, it's just a whole nother level of empathy that you have to do there. So I applaud y'all for the improv acting. It's something else. It gave me a lot of anxiety, but the more that I talk about it, I just should have just had somebody controlling my lines, my photo lines. But perfect. Before we end up here, before we wrap things up here, Mark, Cynthia, is there anything that you'd like to promote or tell some folks about, or anything of that nature?
I am directing the high school production of Little Women at Theater West End in Sanford in July 13th and 14th. So come out and support the next generation of artists who are working very hard and doing a wonderful job. I'll just go ahead and plug Theater West End. I've done 2 productions with them. We did To Kill a Mockingbird, and I was also in Steel Magnolias. Wonderful experience. It's a great theater. Right now, they just opened the Rocky Horror Show. They do a lot of good theater, and they are worth the drive. So haul yourself out to Sanford and see some good theater out there at Theater West End.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Break legs to your entire cast, and good luck to them. Mark, how about you, sir? Sorry.
Thanks for asking, and congratulations, Cynthia. I'll try to get out there and see some of those amazing shows. I'm returning for a great event at Disney Springs called Flavors of Florida. This is an amazing thing where I host culinary demonstrations. They're free to guests that want to come see it. And it'll be some of the high-end restaurants. Marimoto Asia will be there. I think Wolfgang Puck's will be featured as well. So there's every Friday in July and the first 2 Fridays in August, it will be happening. And I'll be hosting that. We'll have some celebrity chefs there, and they'll do some demonstrations and maybe even have some samples you can try. So you don't want to miss that. And also the newest show at Disney Springs, which is also free if you're there, happening at 9, I think at 9 and 10:15 or 10:30 is Disney Dreams That Soar, which is a drone show which I host. I do the voiceover for that drone show, and it's a tribute to all the Disney characters that fly. So that's amazing.
Wow.
So check it out. It's this summer at Disney Springs. A lot happening there. And I'm also working on a book that I will release. Hopefully, I'm still working on it, so I don't know when the release date is, but it's going to tell my career at Disney, my 33-plus year career in entertainment at Walt Disney World. And I do a lot of fun stuff on TikTok, Instagram, on Twitter, and you can follow me at
LOL, the number 4, Mark Dead.
Awesome. Thank you both.